Hey there folks, this is the Blockbuster Beach Bum, lazily examining the films you may or may not have seen on the big screen. Today I'm going to examine a film that's almost infamous, in a sense. A film that is literally synonymous with the word box office flop, or box office disaster, and there's not much to be said. The punchline is John Carter. John Carter, it's funny, it came out in the same year as The Avengers. The Avengers also was distributed by Disney. Massive success, The Avengers, as we all know. $1.5 billion, third highest grossing movie of all time. John Carter, costing $250 million, was a major flop. The film grossed only about $30 million in its opening weekend against the Lorax, and the film only generally made about maybe $282 million on a $250 million budget, when some analysts were saying the film needed to make at least $600 million to recoup the investment and ever hope to make some sort of profit. This may seem staggering and shocking to some, but what is the real problem behind John Carter? I don't think I'm a genius in saying the fact that the main problem with John Carter partly is the fact that who cares? Now, yes, I know there are people who love John Carter on Mars. I've heard of John Carter on Mars before, but what 9 or 10-year-old has? I mean, I don't want to presume everybody hasn't heard of John Carter, but I don't think the mass movie-going audience has seen John Carter, or heard of the source material, or be vaguely interested in John Carter, which was created by Edgar Rice Burroughs, who also created the character of Tarzan, which everybody knows Tarzan. John Carter is a marketing mess, as I would like to call it. This film, the trailers looked uninteresting. I didn't want to see it. I really didn't want to spend my money to see this movie. It looked dull and stupid. I like the white apes because I like giant gorillas. I mean, King Kong's one of my 5 favorite movies of all time, so that's, if the only thing I'm really liking about your trailer are 2 white apes that might not be in the movie all that much, then you're not convincing me. Now, the original title of this film was John Carter of Mars. They took out the of Mars part, and I think that might be one of the worst decisions of this film, because at least John Carter of Mars leaves me intrigued, like, oh, Mars, something outer space, extraterrestrial, something. John Carter. That's like me saying, okay, Joey DeAngelis, my name. That's the title of a movie, okay? Imagine if my Joey DeAngelis was a literary character who was famous for a period of time, but most people, most mass audiences don't know who the hell Joey DeAngelis is. Joey DeAngelis is a $300 million movie produced by Walt Disney Studios and flops hard. Why? Nobody cares about the name Joey DeAngelis. It's not like it's a famous figure like Lincoln or anything like that, or it's a figure most people can identify with. It's just John Carter. Just kind of an odd title. I mean, yeah, not everybody's heard of the Lone Ranger, but at least with the Lone Ranger it had an easier challenge because A, there were stars in the Lone Ranger, folks, and B, the Lone Ranger, even if you didn't know who the character was, you could say the Lone Ranger was an interesting enough title to pique your interest. And I actually liked the Lone Ranger, by the way. A little too long, but whatever. John Carter, like I said, failed miserably in the marketing standpoint because A, who wants to see this movie, and B, they used weird music choices in trailers, and it just didn't work. Disney was really banking on this to be like their next Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. I mean, because you want to have a bankable franchise. Everybody wants a bankable franchise. I want a bankable franchise. Where, I could release that movie, and even if the movie is horrible, it will make money, like Transformers. Transformers is a horrible movie. The Transformers 3, I saw Transformers 3, it's a horrible movie. But you know what? People will go out in droves to see Transformers because they've heard of it, and Michael Bay will give them explosions and attractive women and racist characters. So, that's that. But John Carter tried to establish itself as a franchise, but ultimately failed. It's been a year. I decided to rent this film from my public library. Because I was going to check it out on Amazon, but I don't feel like, spending $15 to buy the film. So I rented it from my public library. Very nice. And, first half hour was very hard to get through. I really didn't care about much of anything that was going on screen. There didn't feel like a sense of urgency all that much, and things just happened. The opening of this film is kind of like a flashback setup, which I hate in a summer blockbuster. That should be nowhere near a summer blockbuster film. It's just kind of frustrating because you look at it and you go, why does this need the flashback structure? I would have rather them cut the scenes out, focus more on John Carter as a character in Earth and Mars, or cut those scenes out together, like 2 hours and 10 minutes. But that's a long time for this type of movie, in my opinion, because A, I'm not really caring about the characters too much, and B, that's 2 hours and 10 minutes you want me to invest of my own time to watch this movie. I'm trying to think who's in this movie. Taylor Kitsch. I feel so bad for this guy, okay? He was Gambit in Wolverine Origins. Then in 2012, he was in two major flops. John Carter and Battleship. If they developed certain things more, I think I would care about the characters more. For instance, John Carter in the movie, I don't know if he was like this in the stories. He was a Confederate cavalryman during the Civil War, and the Union needs a service. Union needs a service against Native Americans. So that happens. I think that's quite interesting. He's able to try to there's a certain scene in the film where he's talking to the Native Americans, in the Native American tongue. I don't know what tribe it was. I'm sorry. I'm not familiar with that, so I apologize for just calling it a general Native American tribe. But they were communicating. I'm like, you know what? That's kind of interesting because he's trying to be like the bridge between cultures and trying to get people to unite and get along. I kind of like that. If they played that up more in a better way in the Mars scenes and all that sort of stuff and maybe care a little more, I think that would have been done beautifully. Eventually, he and Bryan Cranston, of all people, oh my god, Bryan Cranston's in this movie, guys. And they get stuck in a cave, and John Carter finds this device, and he goes to Mars, or as they call it in the movie, Barsoom. Now, my other problem with the movie is that you give the audience these terms, and okay, yeah, I can get it. Barsoom is Mars. This means Earth. The Jeddak is like leader, and all these other terms. But the names and things are so foreign that if I was just a guy who just wanted to plop down and watch the movie, I'd be like, I don't care. What the hell is a Jeddak? Barsoom? Barzoom? What are you talking about? Like, are you high? I guess it's part of the original source material. I haven't read the John Carter story, so I'm only speaking from a general audience member, someone who reviews movies on YouTube. I don't know. I don't get that. It just seems, it's almost too alienating for the audience. Now, one of my favorite scenes in the film also is when he's, gravity's different on Mars, so he's able to leap great distances, and he's able to show incredible feats of strength. I don't know, I really like that sequence. I like him trying to adjust to the Martian atmosphere. I like that he falls down a few times and, jumps and jumps. John Carter is then found by these green people, their leader being played by Willem Dafoe, great actor. I think he does a good, reasonable job with the character. The only problem is I don't think the special effects are all that convincing for these characters, especially since how awkward the design is. Trying to think. Oh, there's a dog lizard-like creature in the movie. I don't know. I felt like mentioning this, but I like that creature. I don't know. It was one of my favorite parts in the movie. Also, what happens is that there's several different tribes on Barsoom, but there's also different cultures on Barsoom, which I think is really interesting. You have this this guy. I forgot the guy's name already. He's trying to take over Mars, and he's being helped by Mark Strong, who I think is a solid actor, and these group of these like Watcher-like figures who help cause the destruction and destruction and chaos of planets. If that was a separate plot on its own, I would find that very fascinating. It's really cool. Somebody should make that into a movie. Then you have this other culture where you have this female character who I thought was effective. I liked her as a character because she wasn't just a woman. She was a character who fought, and she kept her femininity too. That was much more realistic than some of these other female characters who are just hyper action heroes, and they're basically, they're not affected by anything. I like characters like her, this princess character, and like Katniss from the Hunger Games, who are real female characters. They're real human beings, and I really like that. She was one of my favorite elements in the film. And apparently, her father says that her father is played by Kieran Hines, another actor I like. And he basically says to her, look, you gotta marry this dude. The dude's trying to conquer all of Barsoom to save our place. And she doesn't want to do that. And stuff happens. Now, off the story for a little bit, I don't want to get into too much detail with the story. I think because I almost feel I revealed too much already. But I like the visual effects. Not the creature effects. The visual effects, like the aircrafts in this film, they're very almost in a weird way aerodynamic. Like they're very thin, but you can see how they fly in some weird way. They're beautiful aircrafts, and they make me think of like and the costume design makes me think of like a pulp magazine. Like they have like these furs and these capes, and they make me think of like Grease, but at the same time makes me think of a pulp magazine's idea of like Martians, and I really got into that. I really like the fight scenes in certain instances where that happened, and yeah, I really like the film visually. Visually, it's quite impressive. I love the white apes, like I said. I like the really cool design of these creatures. And is it just me, or is it just that like filmmakers like creatures with 6 limbs? I don't know. Avatar has it. This movie has it. So I don't know. Is 6 limbs the new fetish now? I guess I don't know, but in any case, John Carter is an admirable effort that ultimately fails. I probably would put this film on the same level as I would put James Cameron's Avatar. You might condemn me for doing that, but let me explain. James Cameron's Avatar is one of the greatest visual experiences I've ever had the pleasure of watching, or displeasure, depending how you like the movie. I really love the film visually, and it's one of the few films that truly justifies a 3D viewing. The story wasn't that great. I didn't care about much of the characters. Like one of my best friends said, you like the trailer and that's it. However, I did like the world. The world was beautiful, and I really thought the special effects were quite impressive. So, final thoughts on John Carter. Like I said, it's an admirable effort. I respect Disney for trying to give a mass audience a John Carter movie and reintroduce his character. But the problem is, not everybody cares. I didn't really find the characters too dynamic, except for that the princess character. And I really like those Watcher characters. The visual effects, in terms of like the backgrounds and just the widescreen shots are amazing. I forgot to mention that. Just certain shots of like the atmosphere of Barsoom in this film are just gorgeous. But besides that, the creature effects I didn't find all that impressive, except for the white apes. I really like the cheesy costume design, and I like the pulp look to those fights. I really like the fights in some ways. So as a whole, I would say rent the film. Don't pay a lot of money to see it. I mean, if you like it, I really respect you for liking this film. Because I really feel bad the film did fail miserably at the box office. Because, from watching interviews from like Andrew Stanton and other people, it really felt like it was a genuine effort. Also, side note, on the DVD, there's a bonus feature that talks about the history of the property, and talks about like Bob Clampett, who's a famous animator. Warner Brothers did Great Piggy Bank Robbery, Porky and Wacky Land, great. Also the controversial Coal Black and the Seven Dwarfs. He was planning to do a John Carter animated movie, but that never happened. And it talks about John Carter and certain things that happened. So I really recommend that. Hey there folks, it's the Blockbuster Beach Bum. If you like this video, please subscribe, comment, and like, and give your opinions on the particular movie I discussed today. Also, you can check out the Facebook page right here, or if you're more interested in classic film reviews, you should check out my other YouTube channel, LonChaneyReviews, over here. See you guys later on the Blockbuster Beach Bum, lazily examining films you may or may not have seen on the big screen.